Before 1890, many Indigenous children in Canada grew up surrounded by the people, places, and traditions that gave them a strong sense of identity. They learned their language from parents and grandparents, gathered food from the land, played in the bush or along the shorelines, and heard stories that had been passed down for generations. Their cultures were deeply connected to the land and to their communities, and childhood was a time to build that connection to family, to spirit, to tradition. But that changed with the growth of the residential school system. As Canada expanded westward, the government and several Christian churches created laws and policies designed to assimilate Indigenous people into settler society. Their goal was to make Indigenous children give up their language, culture, and way of life, and to replace it with European customs and religion. These were not schools in the way we understand them today. They were tools of forced assimilation, which means absorbing one culture into another, and many children were taken from their homes without consent. By 1891, the government had introduced per-student funding for residential schools. That meant schools were paid based on how many children they took in. So there was pressure to bring in more students, often by any means necessary. Indian agents were allowed to enforce attendance. Some children were taken hundreds of kilometers from home. Once there, they were given new clothes, new names, and new rules. Many were forbidden to speak their language or practice their traditions. Some were punished harshly if they did. Life at residential schools was strict and often lonely. Children were expected to follow a rigid schedule, waking up early, doing chores, attending classes, and often working for free. They slept in dormitories away from family and were not allowed to go home. Letters were sometimes read or censored. Siblings were separated. For many, the experience was traumatic. Survivors of residential schools have described years of fear, isolation, abuse, and loss. But Indigenous families didn't stop resisting. Many parents tried to hide their children or keep them at home. Some communities refused to send their children away, even when pressured. Over time, more and more people began to speak out about the harm that had been done. And today, survivors continue to share their stories to help others understand the truth and to begin the process of healing. To help you understand the impact of these schools, we're going to do an activity called a Two Worlds Drawing. It will show the experiences of a First Nations or Métis child before and during their time at a residential school. Your goal is to help others understand how life changed for children who were taken from their families, cultures, and communities. Here's how it works. Fold or divide your paper in half. One side for life before residential school, the other for life at residential school. On the first side, draw symbols, people, places, and activities that reflect the child's life at home. Think about family, language, clothing, food, traditions, the land, and how they felt in their community. On the second side, draw what life may have looked and felt like at the residential school. This might include uniforms, strict rules, buildings, separation from siblings, forced language changes, chores, punishments, or loneliness. Use color, space, and symbols to show how different the two experiences were. This isn't just a drawing, it's a story. Then, Write a short reflection. What do you think were the biggest changes this child experienced between the two worlds? What might they have felt during this time? Why is it important for Canadians today to learn about residential schools? This activity will help you build empathy and understanding by imagining history from a child's point of view. Art can tell powerful stories, and yours will help make sure this one is never forgotten. This activity isn't about drawing perfectly, it's about seeing clearly, about stepping into a moment in history and trying to understand what it meant for those who lived through it and for the generations that came after. When we listen to these stories and honor them, we take a small step toward truth, understanding, and reconciliation. Take your time with this, think deeply, ask questions, and most importantly, treat this story with the care and respect it deserves.